Because Turkey wants to recover lost Ottoman territory and in the process recover leadership role over Sunni Islam. I have long anticipated, and some of you probably are aware of it, that we're going to one day witness a Turkish military attack on northern Syria. But this is what has just started. A Turkish military attack on northern Syria. The hadith of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam is that the malhama will begin with a military attack in the north of Syria. And he has said that Rome will be involved in that. Rome will land their troops. So when the United States announced that they're withdrawing their troops from northern Syria, I understood that this is part of the plan. This is a secret understanding between the United States and Turkey. Well then, what is the Turkish agenda? That the Americans should be secretly in alliance with Turkey. But don't forget that Turkey is a member of NATO. And what does Allah say about membership in NATO? I have been teaching this subject for 20 years or more, and my brothers, the learned scholars of Islam, just ignore me. What are the implications from the Quran of Turkish membership in NATO? Let us go to the Quran now. Proper methodology is that you do not take any ayah of the Quran in isolation or any part of a verse in isolation. So let's go to Surah Al-Ma'idah. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تَتَّخِذُوا الْيَهُودَ وَالنَّصَارَى أَوْلِيَاءَ. O you who have faith, do not take the Jews and do not take the Christians as your friends and allies. The schoolboy takes this part of the ayah by itself in isolation. And the schoolboy concludes that Allah is referring to all Jews and all Christians when He said, don't take them as your friends and allies. But that's wrong, because the Quran is non-contradictory. Allah says so in the Quran. لَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ. Had this Quran come from any source other than from Allah, لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. They would have found in this Quran endless inconsistencies and discrepancies. But this Quran is free from inconsistencies and contradictions. But if you say, Allah is saying, don't take all Jews and don't take all Christians as your friends and allies, then there will be contradiction in the Quran. Why? Because Allah says that in the end times, there will be a Christian people who will be closest in love and affection for you. This is Surah Al-Ma'idah. So you have to say to the people who are closest in love and affection for you, we can't be friends with you. That's contradictory. The Quran says you can marry a Christian woman. So when you marry her, you have to say to her, my beloved wife, you can be my wife, but you can't be my friend. It's contradictory. The Quran says, وَتَعَمُّهُمْ حِلٌّ لَكُمْ. Their food is halal for you. So your Christian friend invites you for a meal, and you eat the food, of course, which is halal for him. But when you sit down with him, you say to your Christian friend, listen friend, we can break bread together, but we can't be friends. This is contradictory. So there cannot therefore be an understanding of this ayah. Don't take all Jews and don't take all Christians as your friends and allies. Well then what is the Quran saying? Allah is speaking of not all Christians, but some Christians. And He's not speaking of all Jews, He's speaking of some Jews. And this is why, as soon as they saw Him die on the cross, before their very eyes, and Allah then expelled them from the Holy Land, He no longer refers to them as Banu Israel. In the very next ayah of the Quran, He now refers to them as Ahlul Kitab. because he knows that there will be Jews now who will not be Israelites, and there will be Christians who will not be Israelites. And so you cannot refer to them anymore as Banu Israel. So now these are referred to for the first time as Al-Yahud, Jews, because not all of them will be Israelites. And these are referred to as Al-Nasara, Christians, because not all of them will be Israelites. And so Allah is not saying, don't take all Jews and all Christians. He says, do not take such Jews and do not take such Christians as your friends and allies who, here's the answer, in the words which follow, بَعْدُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْدٍ. Do not take such Jews and do not take such Christians as your friends and allies, who themselves are friends and allies of each other. وَمَن يَتَوَلَّهُم مِّنكُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. Allah is anticipating, if I'm allowed to use that term, a Jewish-Christian reconciliation and alliance. But it won't be the Jews who are the Israelites, it'll be the European Jews, the Khazar. And it'll not be the Christians who are following Nabi Isa alayhi salam, it'll be other Christians who will enter into Christianity. These two are going to form an alliance, and it's called the Zionist Alliance. And whosoever from amongst you turn to them with friendship and alliance, you belong to them. You don't belong to us anymore. And that is what Turkey has done. Turkey is not going to leave NATO. No. Turkey will remain in NATO until the Great War, because Turkey has a significant role to play on behalf of NATO. And so now we are seeing the countdown to the Great War, the Third Great World War, because our Prophet ﷺ did prophesy that it is going to begin in the north of Syria. And that is precisely where Turkey has now launched her military struggle, in the north of Syria. And I remind you now that this Turkey, which wants to assume leadership of the Sunni world of Islam, does not belong to this ummah, according to the Quran. وَمَن يَتَوَلَّهُم مِّنكُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. Whosoever turns to them, who is them? The Judeo-Christian Alliance, which is now known as the Zionist Alliance, which has NATO as its military arm. Whosoever turns to them with friendship and alliance, you belong to them.